And that's something we need to understand, that if you are doing something and you really want people to support you and they kind of just don't, then maybe these aren't the people who are going to support you. And maybe you need to find other people. Hi, and welcome to the Creative Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. On the show, you'll hear interviews with innovative creative artists, entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders. You'll have a front row seat as they explore their internal, uncharted waters about what inspires them to grow, achieve, and innovate. Get their insights and realizations as I tease out answers to questions they've never pondered before. You'll also learn how to supercharge your innovative drive, mindfulness, and communication skills so you can succeed. This episode is brought to you by my favorite productivity hack, the Brain FM app, this podcast's host, Podbean, as well as my book, Speak From Within, Engage, Inspire, and Motivate Any Audience. Hello, and welcome to the Creative Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. Thanks for taking the time to be here. I appreciate it. I want to talk about something that is a bit of a departure from what I normally talk about, and that is dance with them that brought ya and hang out with them that like ya. And here's what I mean by that. I was just on a podcast and I was talking, I was on, it's called Theatrical Shenanigans. The panel presents, it's not out yet, but I'm going to talk about what I talked about anyway. I talked about the show Oklahoma and how the character of Judd Fry in the 2021-2022 version of Oklahoma, right around then, played beautifully by Patrick Vale, was the outcast, and how in high school, for example, the other characters would have been the popular kids who tortured him, who terrorized him. And the main character in Oklahoma, whose name escapes me, doesn't matter. She was the popular girl he liked. And I was talking about relevance. Is this relevant to people today? Well, I think most of us can relate to having a crush or liking somebody who doesn't like us back, certainly. But also, a lot of us can relate to feeling like an outcast, feeling like we don't belong. And that brings me to my friend Petra Mayer's, may she rest in peace, saying, dance with them that brung ya. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I've been thinking a lot about collaborations. And collaborations are fascinating because you get to work with people who ideally have the same goals as you, or at least are aligned with the goals that you have. And here's why I say it that way. It's because if you've got an idea and you're pushing through on this idea, no one is going to love the idea as much as you do. No one is going to care about it or is going to be as invested in it as you are. So you need to work with people who really, really align as much as possible with what you're trying to achieve. And it kind of goes back to high school. It kind of goes back to being, for me, I was not a popular kid in middle school at all. And in fact, there was a point in 7th grade, I'm being, totally honest, where the three of the most popular girls decided that because I had ruined the curve on a social studies test, that anybody who wanted to be friends with them couldn't be friends with me. So for a few months in 7th grade, the only people I talked to, or rather who talked to me, were teachers and hall monitors, and that's it. So it was a very strange time, and then the time ended and I ended up joining choirs, and my life completely turned around when I found the arts and theater and performing and all of that in high school. But why am I talking about this? It's because there is this feeling that a lot of us have. The psychology behind it is not lost on me, but it is sad, that we want to, as Matt Bomer put about his husband, marry up, right? You want to hang out with people who are in your league or higher, I guess, when you're young. You know, you want to be more popular. You want to be part of a specific group of friends. And the thing about that is that a specific group of friends, if they don't really like you, if they're not really invested in who you are as a person, as you are invested in who they are as people, it's going to be hollow. It's not going to work. And that brings me to my friend Sherry Bankoff, who is one of my oldest friends, dear friend. And I remember one time, this is such a trip down memory lane. I did not expect to do this. Anyway, we were playing some kind of recess in front of the elementary school, and I fell. And the wind got knocked out of me. And I think it was the very first time in my life that the wind had gotten knocked out of me. And all of the other kids ran off and did whatever. She was the only person who went, oh, she came over and she said, "Are you okay?" And I couldn't tell her because the wind had gotten knocked out of me. It's that feeling of you can breathe out, but you can't breathe in because your diaphragm's gone completely bananas. So I couldn't talk, and I did not know what was happening. It had never happened to me before. And she could have run away too and gone and played with everybody else, but instead she sat with me until my breath returned. And I was so grateful for that because first of all, it showed me she cared, certainly. But second of all, I didn't feel so alone. I felt like there was someone in the trenches with me. And so when I'm talking about this stuff with respect to creativity and innovation and art in general, I really want to say that there are going to be people who really resonate with what you're trying to achieve and who say, your mission has become my own, let's do this. They'll still not care about it as much as you do because it's your idea and not theirs. And I highly, highly encourage you to find the people who see you for who you are, who understand what you're trying to achieve, and who want to support it. And conversely, that the reverse is true, that you know them, you see them, and you want to support them. And here's why I'm bringing this up right now. On Sunday, Rich and I attended the wedding of a wonderful new friend to her now wonderful husband. And Maura Campbell, shouting you out. Yay, Maura. And this was so interesting because, first of all, she's a very new friend. I haven't known her for very long, but she was kind enough to invite us to her wedding. And we went and had an amazing time, fabulous time. But we really didn't know that many of the people. Like, I knew some of them because of the work that I had done on Maura's, and Jason Trachtenberg's new musical called Anna and Fyodor, which is, I was helping workshop it over the last month or so. And she kindly invited me to the wedding. And we weren't going to miss it. You know, it was just lovely and delightful. But here's the thing. As part of our creative endeavors, I'm there to support Maura. You know, she's got really cool stuff she's doing. And she's offered, she said, you know, I told her I was writing Listen, or I had written Listen, my play. And she said, you know, I can be useful. If you need my help, I can be useful. And I was like, that's the best thing. What a lovely, lovely thing to have someone say, right? It's what she can do. She is a very giving person, and it's a bit of a mutual admiration society, which is great. But it is something that you kind of figure out what you can do to support this person, and you give to each other in creative collaboration specifically. Now, here's a way that I was able to support Maura and her new husband, Tom. She came over, you know how the bride and groom will walk around they'll walk around all the wedding tables or at the reception or whatever and say hello to everybody. And there had been some people who had sung already, who had performed, because it was a bunch of performers in one form or another at this wedding. And she knows that I've had pretty severe sinus issues because of my neighbors smoking pot all the time. And so she came over and she said hello, and she said, you know, I would have asked you to sing too, but I know you've been super busy and you've been ill. And Rich, my husband, being my husband, goes, oh, I'm sure she could sing something. And he looks at me and I went, yes, I can sing something. And Maura said, really? Oh, that'd be great. what do you want to sing? And I said, Fever. And she said, do you play the piano? And I'm like, no, not well enough to accompany myself. And so she went and found Peter D'Souza, who is another one of the musicians who was at the wedding. And he, on the fly, figured out how to support me in this, because he had his iPad, he found the Fever accompaniment music, and he figured out how to play it in A minor, which is what I needed. And I sang the song. And if I say so myself, everybody enjoyed it. And Maura and Tom, most importantly, Maura and Tom enjoyed it. And here's why I'm telling you about this. It's because it was what I could do in the moment for them. Right. My creative endeavors. And I'm playing out more. I'm getting much back more into my singing and performing after not being as able to, especially during COVID, to perform live. And I'm going to be starting my Twitch channel back up, and I'm doing all this stuff, provided my voice holds, because my neighbors are smoking. But it was a creative tidbit that I could offer to the collective of this lovely wedding and reception. And so it's that beautiful moment when you can go, okay, here's what I can give. Here's a way that I can support you and offer something that could somebody else have gotten up and sung a song? Sure. Could they have sung Fever? Sure. Could they have done it the way I did? No, because we're all singular performers. We're all singular creatives. So it was my way of doing this, and that was what happened. And it felt lovely. And it's important, I think, to remember that you can offer something to the Gestalt and have it be accepted in the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and creativity. And it's amazing. And here's the other thing that happened. When we did this workshop of this show, I was asked to be one of the narrators, and there was a gentleman named Rick who was asked to be the other narrator. And Rick saved my butt. Rick, if you happen to listen to this, thank you again for saving my butt, because there were times when I was going to have to narrate, sing, and narrate on the other side of the stage, and there was absolutely no way to do that. So I asked him to take a bunch of my lines last minute, and he went, okay, and he just figured it out, and he did a lovely job, all of that. And again, collaboration, cooperation, and much gratitude on my end, because he was willing to do that. Coming back to that, at the wedding, as I said, we knew some people, but we didn't know a lot of people. And I introduced Rich to Rick. Yes, they're both Richards, but one is Rick and one is Rich. And we chatted, and Rick's wife, Elisa, was there, and we all sort of da-da-da-da-da, and they said we should sit together. And we went, yes. And we happened to sit at a table, just the four of us. There was room for 10 people, I think, but we happened to sit at a table, just the four of us. And everybody else they were all people who'd known each other for far longer, so they were all at their little tables. And Rich and I didn't know really anybody well enough to sort of horn in and go, hey, let's all go sit at this table. That the other tables were all full. Anyway, it didn't matter. But I guess my point is that the four of us ended up with this. We had just a lovely evening getting to know these wonderful people who are giving and caring and creative. They're both writers. They're both amazing. It was just fabulous. And it allowed both Rich and me this opportunity to meet these wonderful, really caring, creative, kind people. Ever since then, ever since Sunday, we've been in contact back and forth, and there's lots of planned collaborations, and it's lots of stuff, as I will keep you posted on as it comes more to fruition. I will keep you posted. There's all sorts of really cool and exciting stuff about to happen in the next few months, about which I'm just thrilled. So it was unexpected, right? I didn't know Rick would be there, and certainly not Elisa, his wife. And I hope they're okay with me talking about them. Anyway, so I didn't know they were going to be there. We met up. We ended up having this amazing, lovely, fantastic conversation the entire night. Everybody danced together. It was great. And now I feel like I've made friends I'm going to keep for a really long time, because a shared creative endeavor brought us all together. And the same thing with everybody else at this wedding. A shared creative endeavor brought us together in support of Maura's vision. That was part of it. She's a natural writer. She's a director. She's a producer. She does all sorts of stuff in the arts. and she had a vision for her wedding. And the rest of us, well, we were there to have a great time, which we did, and to support them in getting married and to support the vision of their wedding. And if you've ever gotten married, if you've ever gone through a wedding ceremony, you know that that support is really crucial. When Rich and I got married, we got married by committee. 34 of our closest friends took part in the ceremony. I had no bridesmaids or we had no groomsmen, none of that. Instead, we had people do certain things as part of the ceremony. It was a joy and a delight from start to finish, even though it was a lot of work. But everybody pulled together because they all knew I had a vision. And Rich also realized I had a vision. And together they worked. Now, did they care about this going off as much as I cared about it going off? Well, no. And that's because that's human nature. And that's okay. Yet they all gave of themselves to make it as beautiful and wonderful and creative and artistic as it could possibly be. We were talking about this just yesterday with Rick and Elise, actually, about the notion that I've played a lot of weddings and I've officiated a lot of weddings. And what ends up happening is people go, we'd like for you to do this. We'd like for you to sing the processional or to play the processional or to officiate the whole thing. And that's my gift to them, right? That's that kind of, oh, you want me to play for 45 minutes before the wedding, before the ceremony? Yeah, that'll be my gift to you. That's an easy thing to do. It's an easy, lovely, wonderful way of honoring the people getting married. Again, I'm in the service of their vision. And then the hope is that when I have a vision for something, which happened with my wedding, that they will be there in the service of my vision. And collaboration works that way. If you're a longtime listener to this show, you know I started and run the Vegan Writers of New York City group. We took a break from meetings. It was just too busy and wacky. We just had our first meeting back. If you want to know more about that, if you're a New Yorker and a vegan and you write and you want to be coming to our meetings, drop me a line. I will tell you when the next meeting is. Anyway, yes, so we just had our first meeting back and 4 of us showed up, talked writing, and presented our stuff for feedback. And it was really interesting because when I'm presenting, I read one of my new plays called Don't Get on the Train. And it's a 10-minute play. I read it and people had some thoughts about things I could do. But for the most part, the play's done. I don't have anything else I really want to do to it. And why I'm talking about it is because when they were giving me feedback, and this is a rule I have for every single writing group or any kind of feedback group that I run or facilitate, you have to know what kind of feedback you want. Sometimes you're just ready for supportive feedback. That's all I want. I don't want anything else. I'm not ready to have it be criticized or critiqued even. I just need for you to tell me how much you love what you love about it. And that's great. Know yourself. Generally speaking, I am of the tear it up school. Go ahead, tear it apart, do whatever, tell me what you think needs to be fixed, what isn't working, blah, 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 because I'm trying to make it better. I read the play and people had just a few little suggestions. And I think to myself, is it because they're afraid to give it to me or is it because the play's really done? I don't know. However, I keep finding little things that I need to tweak, so obviously the play is not done. Some playwrights I've talked to say the play is never done. You can come back to it 8 years later after it's been produced by a number of different theater companies, and you will still find things that you want to finish or tweak or modify or something. And that's entirely possibly true. I'm just saying that part of this for me is that they were collaborating with me to make my play better. And when they offered things up for feedback, I was collaborating with them to make their things better. That's the spirit in which we agree and intend to approach all of our feedback. Is it a collaboration in that, will you get a writing credit or whatever? No. You don't get a byline or anything like that, but you're there in the service of the other person's creative endeavors. So it's a collaboration in that you are helping them, but you're not, again, you don't have ownership of it. And by that psychology, if you are not one of the owners, you're going to care less. And that is okay. And that's something we need to understand, that if you are doing something and you really want people to support you and they kind of just don't, then maybe these aren't the people who are going to support you. And maybe you need to find other people. And I know that kind of sucks because you want, for example, your friends to love your stuff, but they don't always, right? Your friends don't always love your stuff. That's how it is. So maybe the key here is don't try to get your friends to love your stuff. Instead, go find people with whom you can work who will want to improve your stuff. And that's the other key here, isn't it? It's not just, oh, I want you to love it, love it, love it. It's that I want you to want to help me make it better. Two totally different things. If you love it, love it, love it, I'm not going to trust it. Why? Because a lot of times, and this is something I say to every student I have, when you ask for feedback from people who like you but don't love you. If they love you, they're going to see everything that comes out of your mouth or your computer through rose-colored glasses. They're going to think it's painted butterflies. They're not going to think, okay, let me be objective about this. So find people you like, but who like you, but who don't love you. And the same goes for any kind of feedback or critique. Get it from people who want to help the work rather than see the work through rose-colored glasses and therefore cannot be objective about it. Incredibly important distinction. So when I'm working with these folks, Maura and Rick and Jason and all of these new friends, one of the things that I'm cognizant of, or at least trying to be cognizant of, is that we're collaborators. And I am there as a collaborator on their work to help them improve it. And when I'm going to ask them for their help on my work, that is the understanding that I'm going to go for with them, that's what we're there for, is to help improve the work. Because it's not just, oh, I think you're wonderful, and therefore, by extension, I think everything you do is wonderful. I don't want that. That's not real. It's rose-colored. And rose-colored is great if that's what you need in the moment. Most of the time, for me personally, the kind of feedback I want is very constructive and very matter-of-fact. And that's something that's another part of this, is when you engage in collaboration with people, you don't want to find people who don't like you, because that they're going to skew in the other direction. You don't want to find people who adore you, because they're going to skew in that direction I was talking about earlier. You want to find people who want to improve the work. So look for that. Look for that in all of your interactions when it comes to collaboration and or feedback. Look for people who want to improve the work, whatever it is, whether it's a database or a music composition or a play or a sculpture or whatever. If you ask for feedback, make sure that you tell them what kind of feedback you want, tell them what kind of collaboration you want, and then be prepared to use what you've gotten, if it is constructive, if it's something that's helpful and valuable, to improve the work. And I've said this before, when someone critiques something you've done and it kind of almost feels familiar, it's almost like you recognize it, that's probably something you need to address. If it's something that feels really foreign and way out of left field, then maybe it's not part of your vision. But a lot of times I've noticed something's been sort of sitting in the back of my head going, maybe this is something to think about. And I've kind of ignored it, maybe even subconsciously kind of gone, oh, I'm not going to worry about that. And then somebody will point their finger to that one thing and go, there's this thing. Do you see that piece of green there? I feel like that piece of green shouldn't be there. And you look at that green and you go, yeah, you know what? I noticed that green before and I decided to ignore it. But somebody else has seen it, which means I can't ignore it. Dun, dun, dun. And that's how it works. All right. I hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. This is one of those times where I'm going to probably go back and listen to this and go, what was I talking about? But at the same time, I think there's a lot of very interesting things to think about. That's what I try to do with these episodes. These solo episodes are here to spark inner dialogue. See what kind of stuff sparks for you out of what I've said, And if you have questions about it, you can always get in touch with me. SpeakPipe is in the show notes. You can go to the link and leave me a voicemail. And the reason I say that is because a lot of this is stuff that is meant to help us all go a little bit more in depth in the way we collaborate and the way we create and the way we communicate and in the way, really, for me personally, in the way I live my life. I think it's super important. And, for example, I was terrified before I got up to sing Fever. And Rich kind of he took my choice away, and then he went, I'm sure Isolde will want to sing. And I kind of went, oh, I hope my voice holds. But I was scared. But you know what? I'm not going to let anybody know I'm scared. I'm a professional musician. I'm not going to be up there going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I had to get my act together and do what I needed to do. And is that authentic? I think it is. You know, somebody might say that's not authentic. If you were scared, you should have told them you were scared. And I think, you know what? Somebody's wedding is not the right time for me to unpack and navel gaze at why I'm being afraid to sing in front of people. And it's I don't even need to unpack it. I know my voice isn't strong or wasn't strong or as strong as I wanted it to be because of the inhaling of all of the pot smoke that's coming through the vents and stuff in my apartment. So my voice is just not up to par in my mind. Now, luckily, everyone at the wedding thought that I did really well. Yay. At the same time, it is something that's going to make me nervous over time, keeping living here. But that's for another episode. I will have more news about that in the next few weeks. Anyway, the point here is that even though I was nervous, I had a collaboration with Peter D'Souza. Thank you so much, Peter. If you ever happen to listen to this episode, you were awesome that you just came in, sat down, figured out how to play the piano part, and did it. But also, we were both there. We were all there in many ways in the service of the wedding of Maura and Tom and their vision for their creative event, which a wedding is. There's so many little pieces, but it is an artistic, creative achievement. In addition to being a validation and an affirmation of a loving couple's relationship, it's also almost always a creative achievement. So there you go. All sorts of stuff going on there. I hope you enjoyed it. I am very excited to keep thinking about this. And as I said, if you have questions about how this all works, let me know. And the last thing is, if you're listening to this and going, oh, that's great, go find people who who are going to like my stuff or are going to want to improve the work. How do I find them? Do what I did. Go to a Facebook group that has something to do with what you're doing and say, hey, who would like to form a sculptors group? Or my friend Benjamin Kintish just formed a songwriting group in Columbia, Maryland. He just went, I want to find songwriters. And I went, heck yeah, that's amazing. And I'm going to do that here. I'm going to come up with a group of songwriters. Why not? For here in New York City, where I am, I'm going to figure out a way to do that, and doggone it, I'm going to do it. Have to wait until September, but I am going to do it. So if you're a songwriter and you're in New York City and you want to join a songwriting group, that would be awesome. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I think I've said this now 4 times. This is Isolde Trachtenberg for the Creative Solutions Podcast, reminding you, as always, to be bold, be creative, and most of all, be kind. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. Please subscribe to the show if you're new, and it would mean the world to me if you told a friend about it. Today's episode was produced by Isolde Trachtenberg and is copyright 2024. As always, please remember this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future results, although we can always hope.